to the Insomnicat Show with Nicolette and Brian. We'll get real deep with you, educating, inspiring, and solving problems with some of the most inspirational humans on the planet. Buckle up and come on the journey.
I'm excited. All right, guys, I'm Nicolette, and today Brian and I are here with Candice Bakx-Friesen. She is a money coach, and she's going to talk to us today about money, right? So get ready. We're going to learn what we're doing wrong. Hopefully I'll learn what I'm doing wrong. Maybe you can help me out, Candice. So thank you so much for joining us. And can you kick us off by telling us a little bit about yourself?
Yeah, for sure. Thanks so much for having me. So I'm Candice, and I live in Canada, in the middle of Canada. It's just above the border, above Minnesota, North Dakota. And
So
I'm a country girl.
Still in the super cold area.
Yeah, country girl. So I live on an acreage and enjoy the rural life outside of the city. And I've got 4 kids. I'm a realtor, and I do money coaching as well. And yeah, life's busy and life is good.
Yes, life is good. So let me ask, why money? Why go into this? What was kind of that journey like? When did you decide that you wanted to be a money coach?
Yeah, so I think a lot of this started when I was about 12. So I had successful entrepreneurs all around me. My parents were entrepreneurs, my grandparents, and it was sort of around that age. And it's funny because now I find that with my own son too. My third son's 11, and he's kind of going through that same thing where he's starting to think about money and asking. You could tell just by what he's asking, right? And so, yeah, I was about 12, and I was like, okay, so I see success around me, but like, how did this happen? I got to figure this stuff out. So I started reading. I was like this nerdy kid, and I was reading financial books at the age of 12. And so my aunt was an accountant, and she at the time was the only person in my family who had gone to post-secondary, because everyone was entrepreneurs for the most part. And I just said, yeah, that's good. You know, I can see that she's doing really well, and I'm going to be a career woman, not worried about having kids or getting married, and I'm just going to do this just like her. So never say never. That's the big lesson in this podcast. Because obviously, I got married early in life at 19 and had 4 kids now. So you never know where life's going to take you, which is, I think, the cool thing in life too. So yeah, then I ended up finishing my degree, but I didn't become an accountant. Got into banking, and then it led me eventually into becoming a realtor. And that's been about 14 years now. So about 5 years ago, I found that you can pick up a lot of things in life just by what people ask you and what conversations kind of come up. And so I found a lot of people were saying, okay, Candice, like, you know, the transaction's done. We bought our house or we sold our house, but you know, can I ask you some money questions? Because it seems like you know about money. And so I just realized, okay, you know, there's a bigger way that I can impact lives here. So, you know, helping people buy homes, you definitely have impact. But, you know, if you can help people figure out money, you know, help their kids figure out money, you have strong relationships, and it builds a strong community, right?
So you mean actually help them pay for their homes once they bought them? I mean, anybody can buy one, right? But now how am I going to pay for this thing?
Yeah. And what are all the other costs that come along with it, right?
Yeah, exactly. I don't help them buy their house, but
No.
My phone's going to be ringing off the hook, but yeah.
They were like, wait, is she a mortgage broker or is she?
Well, I have a crazy real estate agent. I'm in the process of buying my first home. I'm going off on a tangent, but she's nuts. She's crazy, and we love her. She like knows everything. She's been doing this for like 30 something years. She's like a mother-daughter team. I swear, she's like, I got the mortgage guy. I got the, you know, I mean, she's like, I've been through this so many times. She's like, you don't want to do that. You want to do this, you know? So yeah. I can see where you guys, she's also my therapist. She was also my therapist during this process.
We do that too. We just don't advertise, but it's free therapy when you buy home.
It's
had
part
to
of,
text
it's
her
part
and
of the
apologize
cost.
to her a few times because I lost it a little bit. I was like, I'm sorry. I'm just really emotional. This is very overwhelming.
Yeah, and people think about like the happy times of buying houses, but there is a lot of hard times too, right? People are separating, or there's death or financial strain. And yeah, so it definitely isn't all, like the shows where it looks fun and exciting all the time, right?
No.
Well, I don't think people realize how complicated it is to buy a house, like how much there is to getting a mortgage, to the whole process. Like until they do it for the first time, and they joke around that I'm a nomad because I move a lot, but I'm like an expert at it at this point. But there's a lot of pieces that actually have to happen for you to buy a house.
Yeah.
Mhm. Yeah, Nicolette's learning that. So now that we've gotten down to our real estate candid, we wanted to talk to you about something that we saw on your website, shiny object syndrome. Now, I'm not familiar with this. I mean, I could probably figure out what it means, and I think I've got it. But and can we talk a little bit about that? What is it, and how do we fix it?
Yeah, well, it's basically that, I think in today's world, especially, you're constantly distracted by things, right? So I'm starting my financial path to saving money, and then I see something and I'm like, oh, I should just quickly buy that. And it's so easy nowadays to spend money, right? And we do it unconsciously, and suddenly it's like, wait a minute, how much did I even spend on groceries? If you even spend the time to think about it, because it's just swipe here, swipe there. And so I think how to overcome that is just to be, again, really intentional, but also to sort of have decision making, like rules for your life, sort of about how you're going to make decisions regarding money. And a simple example would be, I'm only buying a car every 5 years. That's just my rule. And if I buy a car, it will never be more than $30,000 or whatever that number is for you. And so if you've kind of got these guidelines, then when you go into the dealership and they sway you over to this car that's like gleaming, you know how it is, right? Then it's going to be much easier to say, no, like I've got certain guidelines that I have for this purchase, right?
Do you think with the shiny object syndrome, and here's more of a like really financial question, right? People even do that with sort of like stocks. Like I have a lot of friends who are like, oh crap, I'm going to sell the stock to buy that stock because I see that one's going to go up, or they read something. Do you see people do the same thing when they're buying stocks?
Like we just can't just sit still, right? Like we always have to be changing something. We always have to be doing something, and we can't just actually be still and just wait things out, right? And that's the problem. So yeah, people are like, now it's Bitcoin. You have to invest in Bitcoin. And again, this is how they say it, right? You have to invest in Bitcoin. No, I don't have to do anything, right? But when we're constantly told what to do, then it's like, oh, well, I don't know any better. I'm not going to spend the time to research, but if everybody else is, I guess I will too.
Right.
Yeah.
So actually, I have a question, because you mentioned something about we swipe. And, you talk about the unconscious spending. I literally buy things in my sleep. I literally make purchases on Amazon, in the middle of the night. I'll wake up and I'll have a thought and I'll just buy it. And then in the morning, I'm like, oh crap, what did I buy? Like I know I bought something, but, and sometimes it takes a minute for me to remember. So I totally understand that. But one thing that I will
there's
say
a little
is,
thing that shows you what you ordered, right?
yeah, I know. I forget. Like I wake up in the morning, I'm like, I remember buying something. What did I buy? It's obviously not that important, right? So one thing that I realized about myself, and I'm wondering if you see this, is cash versus a credit card. Now, when I have cash, and I like cash, I like to have cash. I don't as much anymore, but for a while, even when everybody was shifting to just swiping everything, I still like to have cash. But I feel like when I have the cash, you can physically see that cash depleting, right? And so it's kind of like I become a little bit cheaper, right? Because I'm like, okay, wait, I only have like 4 more 20s in here. I'm not going to buy that thing. But when that same number is on a card or in an account and I'm just swiping, I can't see it. It's not visible for me. Yeah. Is that something that you see?
Yeah, definitely. And that's why if you're trying to get things under control, cash is the best, because it is visible. And again, you can't do it unconsciously. So if you have $80 in your wallet and you don't have a card with you, you will be very conscious of what you're spending in the store, and you're going to be adding it up as you go in the grocery store, because you're not going to want to get to the till and have to say, sorry, I can't buy these 5 things.
Right.
You put them back, right? Because then there's embarrassment. So
Mhm.
so much of money stuff is tied to emotion, right? And yeah, it's interesting.
You say emotion. Now, is there, I'm sorry, Brian, I just, I mean, what other emotions do you see at play here when it comes to finances?
So I think people blame money for a lot of their issues in life, but usually there's underlying issues. It's never really about just the money. Like money is a tool, but it's the emotions tied around it. So a simple example, you know, I hate my job. I leave my work and I'm like, oh, I can't stand that person. I go to the mall, I blow $400 because it makes me feel better. I get home, I'm like stressed out again. I'm like, what did I just do? I don't even have $400 to spend.
Mm-hmm.
Then I'm laying awake at night thinking about it because I can't sleep. Now I'm grumpy when I get up. I'm yelling at my kids all morning. I get to work. I have to see these coworkers I hate. And it's this ongoing, but what's the real issue, right? It's not the money, but we're dealing with our emotions and we're compensating to temporarily try and make ourselves feel better instead of just dealing with the problem.
It's like she knows me. It's like she's
So you're using money as the crutch, right?
Yeah.
So now I have a question. So I'm sort of the exact opposite. I don't know when the last time I had cash was, right? You know, ever since there's been literally debit cards, like I have been cashless. Here's my question. For me, I sort of view it like I view anything else that's digital. It's the same to me as like playing a video game, right? You know, there's like, if I need to buy something in a video game, I need to farm enough gold to buy that thing. And life is sort of no different, right? It's sort of like, here's whatever that digital currency is, right? Doesn't matter what it is. You talk about Bitcoin, you talk about the US dollar, it doesn't matter.
Yeah.
Basically, I need to save enough or do enough or get enough or figure out how to make enough in order to get the things I want. Are there people, especially now, that are more in that mindset than in sort of like, I have to have cash in my pocket? I understand what you guys are saying. Like if you have cash, you can only spend what you have, but it's sort of the same with digital money. If you're only using cash on hand that's digital or whatever you want to say, like that money in a digital form.
Yeah, but you're being responsible with it, Brian. I'm like, I think that's the difference. Aren't you being more responsible than just like going to get a credit card, let's say, and like that thing is just,
well, credit card's not real money, right? But I think there's a lot of people that view currency as digital now. I mean, we see it all the time. I don't think there's a lot of people that view currency as cash. Like I know it is cash and there is cash there, and it represents something, like we talked about Bitcoin, but it's really, you know, and I know that's different, it's cryptocurrency, but it's really a digital currency no matter how you're looking at it. Like your paycheck gets direct deposited, it's digital, it's just a whole bunch of numbers, right? So it's like I said, in my mind, it sort of works the same as a video game. Like my character has so much money, do you know what I mean? There's only so many things it can buy, and if it needs to buy other things, it needs to go make more money. So it's sort of the same concept, right? You know, do you think there's people, and I'm asking because do you think there's people, because I look at my kids and they definitely don't view money in cash. Like they do not, like, it's not even, like cash is not even like a thing.
Yeah. But I think the comment about cash is that if you're having issues trying to get your spending under control, the more visible it can be, the more it's real, right? And so it's very easy to ignore your bank account if you can't see it, or you just keep swiping and you can just keep ignoring the issue. And so if you're having issues managing money or you're trying to make better habits, sometimes making it visible helps. I know what you're saying. And the other comment with that is that if you're an entrepreneur, like if I'm a realtor, which I am, I can just push hard and I can go make more money.
Right.
And so if I want to buy something, I could go make more money and then it's fine. Or some entrepreneurs, they say, well, I'm going to go buy something and that's going to force me to make more money because I need that payment to make me motivated to make more money, which is kind of a backwards way of doing it. And I'm not saying I agree with that by any means.
Right.
And people have all different ways of looking at it, but if you're an entrepreneur, that's different. But if you're a 9 to 5 and you have a set income, what are you going to do? Right? You can't go to your boss and say, hey, you know, I want to buy a car, so, you know, bump up my salary $500.
Yeah, no, you're absolutely right. And I think all of us who have managed people have had some requests like that at some point. Like, you know. Like, yeah, I don't know what to tell you, yeah.
Yeah.
So, so Candice, what exactly, like, what challenges and struggles do you see amongst your clients? Are there any like common threads there, like recurring themes?
Yeah, I think there's a couple of them. Number one, keeping up with the Joneses is the
Mhm.
biggest one. Like, again, you see everything on social media, everybody looks perfect, nobody has problems, and then you feel like, well, I got to keep up with that too. So I think that's the biggest one. And people don't, you never hear about the amount of debt people have tied to their beautiful lifestyle that they have on social media, right? So I think that's the first one. And the other one would be like, just like I mentioned, living life on autopilot. Like somehow this will all work out. Somehow I will retire, and I'm just not going to think about it.
Wait a minute. So my plan's not going to work? Is that what you're telling me right now? Are you bursting my bubble? Because you know what? I think I just said that last night. This will be fine. It'll work out. I use that line.
Everybody says that, yeah.
Crap, Candice, come on.
I know. You're never going to have me on the podcast again.
Yeah, I know. Because I've always looked at like, okay, so eventually I'll make more money and will catch up with itself. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah.
so that mortgage won't seem so bad, or that payment won't be so bad because in X amount of
I'll
years
figure it
be
out in
making
10
more
years.
money.
That's
That
all right.
doesn't work.
I'll get
huh?
there.
And even worse, well, eventually my parents will pass on money. Like,
Oh my
no.
gosh.
Oh yeah, no.
My parents will die. Oh.
But
Yeah,
this is real life, right? People think this. Like,
Yeah, that was never an option for me. So.
Big inheritance. Like, you hear all this stuff, and that's where you just, it's real, right? And everybody has some type of money issue that they're struggling with, or things that you can do better. It just is what it is, right?
So then, you talk about about being intentional with money. You mentioned that earlier. I mean, how, aside from the cash, right, and kind of just what ways can we be more intentional with money?
I think it's, I always use the example of working out at a gym because I think that's really easy for people to relate to. But, if I want to have great results, then I'm going to hire a coach, I'm going to hire a trainer, and I can't just go there once a year and this is all going to be fine, right? And I'm going to have a six pack. So I have to be thinking about it really all the time, right? I have to be intentional with what I'm eating. I got to be thinking, tracking, watching macros. If you do that, got to be putting in the time at the gym. It just is what it is, right? We can't, again, we just think this will all work out, but that's not life. We have to be realistic. And the more that you can be intentional, the more things will work out and you will reach the goals and the plans that you have in life, right? And isn't that the whole point? Like, life is short. Why not work towards what you want and achieve it, So, that could be setting goals. I think at the end of the day, if you can review and reflect and, check your account and, do the things we know we have to do, but we're usually not doing, right?
Yeah, it's true. I mean, when you first get started with a client, like, and they have these bad habits, so what is your, kind of, all right, I'll be your test on me. Like, how do I break my bad habits, right? My bad spending habits, my bad money habits. They're not even just spending. It's just kind of
Right.
the way
They need to take your phone away at nighttime. That's what they do.
Yeah, I know. But it's things like, for example, Brian texted me the other day and said, "Hey, did you ever cancel that thing?" Right? Because we had $40 coming out of an account every month that I wasn't using. I wasn't using it. So it's things like that I do in my personal life as well, right? So I mean, I can see the obvious ones. Like cancel things you're not using. Don't be that. Don't be me, right? But what about those things that are kind of like, I mean, like going to a supermarket? Like, why is it that every time I go to Target, I spend $300? Like, how does that stop? Why? And that's every week. Why can't I make that stop even when I walk in there saying, okay, today I'm just going to get these things? Why is it always $300?
Yeah. I think because you're not super clear probably on what you really want to achieve. Like if you said, like, Candice, I want to retire at 45 or 50, and that's the most important thing. Every time you go to Target, you're going to be like, no, not as important, not as important.
Mm-hmm.
So I think it's just recognizing like we can't have it all. We can't. Nobody can, you know? Even celebrities, they go bankrupt because they spend more than they make and they're making millions, right? So everybody has different money issues. It's not just in how much you make, but it has to be knowing like, what do I want to achieve? And it's got to become super, super important to you.
You know, it's interesting too, because let's just use the Target example. Like, you know, you're talking about, because what you're talking about, Candice, is like really clear focus, right? Whatever that focus is, like just really focusing on it, you know, that singularity in focus. And when you're going to the store, Nicolette, because I do this too sometimes at Target, I'm like, I went there to get two things. And sometimes when I don't stick to my list or the things I need is when I wind up spending. So it's almost even having clear focus on those simple things. Like, here's the three things I need at Target. You know, I need bananas, whatever, strawberries and apples, and that's it.
What are you making?
I don't know. I'm just randomly naming stuff, but but you get my point. Like, instead of going, okay, oh, you know what? There's a nice, you know, whatever bone
Shiny
for my
object.
dog, or there's a shiny object. Exactly. So if we're keeping that clarity on focus, even in the simple things, I guess obviously will make us save more money.
Yeah. And
Well,
some of it too goes back to like, why are you buying this stuff? So, so an example, maybe every time before I go to the office, I have to go through Starbucks before I get to work. Okay, so it's actually not necessarily about the Starbucks, but it's that I want other people to see I've got that cup. So it's my status, or maybe my confidence level or something else. So often it's more than just the spending. So what are you trying to achieve when you're spending money in different ways?
So we have this argument here in my house because I go to Dunkin' Donuts every day, right? And every day it's like $4.79, right? I spend $4.79 at Dunkin' Donuts every day, 7 days a week. And I have coffee. I have a Keurig, right? And I make my coffee in the morning. But then on the way back from dropping off my son, I have to pick up this Dunkin' Donuts. Now, when I don't, for example, he's virtual learning and I wasn't getting out of the house as much, and you know, so on and so forth with the pandemic, I was tired. I felt like something wasn't right. Now, I could have gone upstairs and made another cup of coffee, right? But in my mind, it's a different, you know, it's a different animal to me, right? So it's almost like I don't feel right unless I have, like, it's habit, maybe if that's the like just these habits that I can't break. Maybe I don't like change, Candice. Maybe that's
And I'm not the kind of person that says you can't have that Dunkin' Donuts ever again. It's the coffee that's your problem, and that's why you can't retire early. That's not true. But you know, it's okay, you know, and don't leave your house at 15 degrees Celsius and wear slippers every day, and you know what I mean? Like, you have to still live and you're gonna spend money. But but it's just making those decisions, right? And we can all, you know, where we're spending in certain ways, we can just readjust and put that money towards something else, right? And it doesn't have to be every single thing, and that's what people are always upset about. It's just like dieting, right? Like, don't call it dieting because right away you feel restricted. So this is the same. It's just reallocating money, right?
Right. I get it. It's a problem. Do you find that people are afraid to look at the numbers? You know, yeah. I just had, you know, this is really hitting home for me because last night we had to do some figuring. That's what we call it, and how we have to do some figuring. And you know, and my figuring is, it'll be fine. Don't worry about it, or it's gonna be fine. It's fine. Whatever. Let's not look at it, right? Yeah. And when you look at the numbers, you're like, oh, okay, A, it's not as bad as I made it in my own mind, or B, it's actually far worse. And, you know, we really shouldn't be buying 3 Dunkin' Donuts a day. Maybe we should cut it down to that 1, right? But, you know, I find that fear of actually seeing it, because you don't know what's going to be there, which is scary because it's our money, right? Because, I mean, how do we not know what's going on there? You know, Brian, you're super responsible compared to me. I get it.
No. I think, no, my question is this: do people just not like do more like, because I mean, I think everyone should go through this exercise, right? Look at what you spent in like a course of a time frame, whatever that is, a week or a month. And we all go through these exercise, or I do every once in a while. And I'm like, what are we spending? Or what am I spending my money on? Or what are we spending our money on? Or, you know, whatever, right? And you wind up looking at it and you go, oh man, and I'm just going to use your Dunkin' Donuts. Like, I spent you know, $400 on Dunkin' Donuts this month. I know you don't spend that much, Nicolette, but
I
you
might, but okay.
like, you know, and going, wow, maybe I should just cut it down to visiting Dunkin' Donuts once a week because now I could afford a new car or whatever the case is. So it's just really looking at, and I think to Candice's point, it's just really understanding how you're assigning your money, like what you're spending it on, and then just readjusting it to what's really important to you.
Yeah. It's just like saving. People are like, I cannot find $400 a month to put into savings right now. And it's the same. You can't start from 0 to 400, right? You
Right.
start with, okay, I'm gonna find $20. Okay, now that was actually pretty easy. So now I'm gonna find $40, right? And you just build it up slowly.
You know,
You can't go 0 to 100 miles an hour. It's not sustainable, right? So you just slowly build, and then you see, hey, I had success, and then you keep building on that. And next thing you know, you're like, I got savings figured out, I'm making more money in my business, and it all comes together, right? But you have to make that decision. Today's the day I got to start actually looking at this. And yeah.
Right. Otherwise, you're just going to wind up having to have a side hustle to buy your Dunkin' Donuts, you know?
No. I'm thinking about it right now. What can I do? Well, I would like you to kind of give us a last, give us something actionable that we can use, right? Like right now, if we just want to get started, what is the first thing that we can do right now? One thing that we can do today to kind of start this process of really becoming mindful about what we're spending our money on.
Yeah. So I'm going to give you a couple because everyone's in a different place with their savings and where they're at financially. But, you know, some people, it's just really deciding. The first thing, you got to decide today's the day. I'm not putting this off anymore. I'm not avoiding this. But yeah, and then replacing debt repayment with savings is another one, right? So looking at how much you're actually spending towards debt repayment. And if you've got credit cards, of obviously, you know, everyone kind of knows this is what we have to do, but people have this like comfort again, like, well, it's only a couple grand of credit cards and I could just let it sit there and it's not a big deal. But, you know, just getting rid of some of that stuff finally and instead of letting it sit there, right? So if you're paying a couple $100 towards credit cards, let's say, and you can reallocate that alone, now you've got some savings starting. And just not doing the lifestyle upgrades. Like often when people pay off debt, then it's like, okay, now I can afford to spend more instead of, hey, I'm used to spending that, put it into savings right away. And so those lifestyle upgrades, that's a big one for people. And that also happens when you get a raise, right? Like I got a raise at work, so I deserve to spend more now. Like this I deserve thing, right? Comes up a lot. So it's just looking at some of that stuff. I think there's a few tips there. And then the last one would be, you know, I think when we look at investing, we're always focused on, okay, where can I make more interest instead of how can I sock more money away?
What do you mean by that?
So people are constantly looking at like, so it's risk and return, right? So if you take on a higher risk investment, but your return's higher. So people are always like, okay, well, how much can I make from stocks and how much can I make from real estate investing? And but they really should actually focus more on stocking more money away because that's going to make a bigger difference over the long term than the interest rate, right?
Into that thing that they're investing in, you mean?
Pardon me?
So you mean stocking it away into that thing, whatever it is that they're investing in?
Yeah. So instead of focusing so much on how can I make more interest and more interest, it's important. But if you can really look at your numbers and put more money away into investments, that's going to make a bigger difference. So if you're doing $300 a month and you're like, whatever, but if you can bump that up to 1,000, that's going to make way more of a difference over the long term than trying to find the next best investment that's making you 1% more or 2% more.
Right.
So it's definitely important, but not as important as just getting more money into investments.
I gotcha. Because it's like, then you have it, right? I mean, as long as it doesn't completely tank, right? Then you have it, right?
Yeah.
Well, we appreciate you coming on and talking to us, and thank you for, you know, being my therapist too. You are in that business, right? So, but
actually about real estate questions in about 10 minutes.
I know. I'm going to be emailing you at 11 o'clock. What is this realtor mean by this? So, can you let everybody know where they can learn more about you and your work and potentially work with you?
Yeah, so my brand's called investorsmarts.ca, and CA is for Canada. So investorsmarts.ca, and easy to get a hold of me. As a realtor, you can't hide online, so I'm all over the place. But yeah, I'd be happy to answer any questions, or if people have something they want to bounce off me as an idea, then yeah, just reach out.
Awesome. We'll put the links in the description as well so everybody can grab it.
Thanks.
Thank you,
Candice.
Candice.
Okay, take care, guys.